have some power problem here, so I'm not turning on my video.
Sure, no problems.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, today's July 15. This is service binding operator weekly call, and we have one agenda. If anybody has any agenda, please add that. Okay, so today's I want to discuss about the documentation changes that I'm working on, and
Sure.
yeah, so let's start with that, and we can move on to other topics afterwards. So this I need some time to explain where we are now, and what is the next plans and all. So I'll start with that. So let me go to the repository where this change is happening. Right now, we are keeping all this documentation in this Stebbins repository, and there are two PRs. The first PR, I would say, in a ready to review state, and the second one, hopefully by today or tomorrow, I'll complete it so that we can review. So the first PR is focusing on the quick start. So one of the early discussion that we had was that what kind of example should we use in the quick start. I started with a very simple CRD and CR for example, but based on the feedback I received, I tend to use a real world application and real world backing service. So that way we could demonstrate how this operator works in a with the real applications. So this backing service that we selected is a PostgreSQL backend, and the front end, I mean the application is a Spring Boot application. It's called it's called Pet Clinic. Yeah, it's a popular application, but I noticed the original Pet Clinic from the you know uh, the Spring project doesn't have support for PostgreSQL, and I tried to make it has support for MySQL, but I couldn't make the MySQL operator working properly in my local system, so that's why I switched to PostgreSQL. But unfortunately for PostgreSQL is not really supported in the original Spring Boot project. But there was a fork of this project called Spring Boot Pet Clinic Rust, and this project is what I say, it's a fork, but it's well maintained. So there are a lot of maintenance. So this is the fork of that application. But one caveat of this one is that it doesn't have any UA. So there is no UA. That means people should use some kind. There is a what you call a REST API, and that REST API can with a yeah. So that means people can query this through that interface. So that's how this application is working, which I hope should be good enough. Yeah. So you can access finally through Swagger. That's I think Swagger is very popular in developer community to test the uh, API calls. So that's why I decided to use that one. And in case if they really want to install a UI, there is a separate project for that called with the Angular project. For now, I didn't integrate that because that is not really necessary for the to demonstrate our binding part. So yeah, that's a background thing about this. What we are trying to achieve through this, quick start. And I try to keep this text everything very minimal. But Sri, I would like to want to know if you think that some place we need little elaboration. In some places where I added even Predrag question whether do we really need to. There was some explanation I added here about these fields, but he told me that that doesn't make relevant in this context because we haven't explained the concepts well. Okay, and there was even a question about adding this CR here, but I kind of oppose that approach. So for now, I kept it here, and I would like to hear the feedback on that also. Right now, in this quick start, until now we haven't introduced what is this CR structure or anything, but I think it's a good idea to show this wall, YAML. But I hidden every other YAML files. That means every other, creating custom resource or application deployment, everything they can run through applying that remote YAML file. But only for this service binding YAML, I just displayed it. Let them get a familiarity with the structure, so that in the next section we can, when we are explaining, they will get it. And for convenience, I kept that YAML also in this URL. By the way, this URL I am going to change. For now, I couldn't make this, what is this called, this documentation tool to serve this content. For some reason, it's not working for me. That's why I kept it in a gist. We could move this into some other better location so that this URL will not be this much lengthy. Yeah. So yeah, that's a high level thing. So want any comments or anything?
I just have a question. When you say that the fields in the YAML, is there any information that the user might need in terms of like a note or regarding any points in the YAML that you want the user to take note of or to care about in while doing this quick start, for example, any limitation or anything about any information about parameter that the user should know or take care of?
It's not
You
really
mean,
necessary. Okay, they can simply run this thing and they should see the application running. Uh, yeah, Steven, somebody was trying to speak, or?
yeah, so Sri, what you are asking is basically how can we have, or do we need to have to annotate a little bit the YAML so that we can explain it a little bit better? Is that what you mean?
No, the idea of quick start is to get the user quickly, get it started. I understand that. But if there is anything like, suppose you may have to note this, or this is the value, or you should leave it empty, something like that. If at all there is anything, it is good to include. If there is nothing like that, then you can leave it as is. I was just like asking just to verify if there is something like that.
Okay.
So I think this should be fine, but maybe we can just give some kind of questions, and then that the following sections is going to explain in detail about. Actually, the next section is about this service binding structure, and also we are going to explain each and every part of this spec, application mappings, all. So
Then at
maybe we
the
can
end,
just
we
give a
can
mention.
give links. No, at the end of the document or somewhere after that topic, once you have that section ready, we can give like for more information on blah 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 about this annotation or whatever fields. You can refer to this section. That should be okay.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Just add a
Pointer
reference to
to
yeah,
add a reference to a link to
the
next
section that explains the fields of this annotation.
section
Yes,
that
thank you.
explains this fields. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. So with that, I hope we can. Yeah, and then in the there is this also. I updated the installation document, but in the installation I only covering how to do this installation through OLM. Again, I went ahead and explained it a lot, but then again there was question from Frederick, do we really need to explain that much? Because installation is nothing but just going to this corporate hub.io, and you see what users do, that just go to that link and click on the install button. They should see the installation, so we don't need to duplicate the same information. That was his thought. So basically, this installation is here, and one of the things that is dynamic here is this version number. Every time this might change, not every time, maybe sometimes this OLM version might change, so we cannot keep in sync all the time. And this is pretty straightforward how to do an installation. And for an alternate installation, we are given this, if somebody not using OLM, they could go for this one. I know that there was a high point Steven added about hem-based installation. Right now we don't have hem-based installation, so I think let's keep it aside for now. Once we have a hem-based installation, we can bring it here. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, maybe there is one more thing that we can do here is installation through the UA, I mean OpenShift UA. Is that really necessary in this documentation, or anyway
Yeah.
that will be there in, I mean, because that documentation, it is going to be there in the OpenShift documentation. So
No, but it's important because it also show
how
document
well integrated?
Yeah, and installing. So this page is part of the getting start, and I think it's important that we are calling out the prerequisites as well. So
Okay.
what is a version where I can install the service binding? What do I need? Which is a version of Kubernetes I need, and things like that.
Oh, you want to mention the versions of Kubernetes also here? Is that really?
Yep. Well, think of it, right? Like, does it apply to every single version of Kubernetes? If it doesn't,
Yeah.
then we need to document what it does support.
Okay.
For example.
You can just come out with a compatibility table, matrix table.
Sure. Right. Someone to
Okay.
show it.
So that's
Okay.
that's what was in the outline initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have it before the procedure steps, like
Mhm.
a prerequisite. Make sure that you follow this and you have this setup that adheres to this compatibility matrix. And then you can start off saying that you can install 3 methods, whatever. One is through the operator hub, other is through the OpenShift, and third is Helm based. And what you can do when you're saying that, if we have the link to the OpenShift, you can directly give it as in that sentence, as inline. So when they click it, it will go there. So you don't have to duplicate all that content here.
Yeah. So we need to include that OpenShift installation through the OpenShift UA, right? The developer console.
Yes.
In the installation, yes, we need to cover all the ways we can install service binding. We will cover Kubernetes and OpenShift, but if someone wants to add installing on Rancher or installing on AKS or whatever, they should be able to do that as well. It's out of the scope for us right now, but we should keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe not in this PR. Can we add it later? Is that okay?
Is there a concern about adding it to this PR? Or are you talking about just like you're going to include it, but it just be in a separate PR to capture that detail?
Yeah.
Just like
I'll add a separate ticket. Okay.
Sure.
I will. Add
And there is one thing that I'm struggling with this the quick start is that you have so you put the service binding custom resource into a GIST, and then okay, so that's fine. The thing that is probably needed is to have a summary of everything that we did and explain that by simply exposing the service binding this way, it avoids us doing a lot of other manual steps. So I think it's important to call it out and to explain what would I need to do if I was not using the service binding. So it's not part of the quick start exactly, but it's more about a summary to make sure that people, the quick start is making sure that we allow the people to use our thing quickly, but also understand the value of
Okay,
it.
that I can add at the end of every section. Like for example, see here is the database backend at the end of that section, or maybe in between, right? A little
No,
explanation.
no, I think if it is about the purpose of the product and we are telling the user why you need this product, why you have to use it, and the following document that you're going to see is going to help you achieve that quickly, by helping you get started quickly. So this should come in the beginning, like an intro to the quick start guide, a short 1 or 2 paragraphs about it. It's going to call out what is the product and why you want to use it, and here is how you're going to start.
Okay, yeah. So I can try to add some more explanation, but like I said earlier, I had added some explanation here, but that was removed after some feedback from Frederick. Now, um okay, I'll bring it back and add some more explanation. But this is going to make this documentation a little lengthy. I hope that is okay, right?
So
Yeah, so I have a quick start guide which I had done as part of own cloud product. I'll send a link to you. I'll share it in the Slack. You can just go have a look at it. So you'll get an understanding how it can be like, and then you can use it for, you can use the pattern for this, right?
Okay. Anyway, I'll make a note of that one. Add uh, descriptions. I think I'm adding description in the every section. What is happening there, or Uh,
So I think, yeah, my feeling is that we can cover that at the end of the document. We can
in the
say,
document.
okay,
Okay.
so you need to summarize upfront what you are going to do, because I don't see that into the introduction.
Okay.
It's
So
to me it's not really clear what we are going to do, but it can be done in 1 or 2 sentences, and then at the end you have a summary of what we did. So in order to connect my application with the service, I only had to create a service binding custom resource. Now, if I had to do that manually without service binding operator, this is all of the steps that I would have to do. We don't need to detail them. I need to take the secret. I need to expose the binding information, and then I need to make sure that my application is able to access that and things like that.
yeah. Okay. So I'll add a one paragraph about a summary, and at the beginning of the document, what is expected in the beginning of the document.
yeah,
2 or 3 sentences.
Hey, Baju, please make sure that you check the story for the what's required as part of this this work.
Yeah.
What needs to be included? Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll check that one also. Yeah. Okay, so that's about this document. Now there are some other things I want to bring attention, and so that is the next document that I'm working on. This is actually the last section right now, adding exposing binding data. I thought of starting there. So in this case, there are we support multiple ways to expose the bindings information. I mean, we are supporting more than what is there in the spec right now. So these are the 5 approaches that we support, and first 2 are part of the spec, and the other 3 are our own supported version, but it is there in the 2 of them are there in the spec as extensions, and the last one is something that we support our own. And yeah.
Okay. So what is the question?
Yeah. So my question is like, when we are explaining this one, I'm going to keep both our like a mixed way. Like I'll be mentioning what is our API. For example, you see, yeah. See, I'll be explaining this how to do this through our API, and the same thing how to do it in the spec compliant API. Both I'll be mixing up and documenting it. Is that okay?
I need to review that.
Okay. Yeah, give me some more time. Let me complete this. I'll be ready for by tomorrow, so that I need to make some more changes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ping me. Feel free to ping me on this tomorrow morning if you need.
Yeah, sure. So that's what I'm looking at. So I'm thinking this approach should be fine, because currently we are supporting both our own API as well as the spec API. So we can mix this in the documentation. Yeah. Anyway, so there was a question about that, and then
Just keep in mind that from my perspective, right, trying to reduce confusion or prevent it to be confusing to the users who are reading this, right? We want to kind of show them what is a clean path that they want to use to be able to achieve what we're describing, right? So that they can easily follow it and understand how to do so, right? So just keep that in mind.
And I see some confusion, because here you are explaining things which are related to when creating the service binding. Exposing the binding metadata is not about creating the service binding. So we need to make sure that we are keeping the delineation between the two use cases clear as well.
Oh,
so,
okay.
So I need to know if there is an existing service. Okay, I need to know what I need to do in order to make the binding information available when I will create a service binding. This is the main problem we are looking at. Creating the service binding and connecting to the binding metadata is another problem. And it should not be related to how the binding data are getting exposed.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, that means that we did something wrong, because that means that the developer will need to know how the binding metadata are exposed, and that's exactly what we want to avoid. They should not know. They should not worry about that.
Okay. I think I'm getting your point. So that means you're saying this document would be more targeted towards that backing service authors who create the backing service?
No, not necessarily, but so kind of, in the sense that if I am, so there's two use cases, there's two different persona. There is a persona where I am a developer and I want to use service binding to connect my services and my application. If my services are not exposing data, what do I need to do? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that I need to know as a developer who is consuming the service. Then there is another persona who is a guy or the woman, sorry, who is also doing the creation and the provisioning of the service. It could be someone who is an ops and who needs to know what needs to be done. And in this case, you have the same kind of information that are needed. But there is also another persona who is the one who is building the service, for example, MongoDB, or who is building the operator. They need to know what they need to do in order to be conform and compliant with the specification, and make sure that their services is going to expose the binding metadata. Do you see the three different persona that there are?
I'm a bit confused with the first person.
Okay,
actually.
so we need to discuss that separately, because I don't think it's necessary to have a longer discussion on this.
Okay, yeah, I got a second and third one, but only the first part thing I'm a bit confused because of the mixing of, but the provision service is something that is spec recommended right now, and we are also supporting that in our both APIs, through our both APIs. So And and this is whether it is really exposing or it is not really exposing. It's more about consuming. Yeah, I got that point. But this is more about really how do
But
they?
think about it from the perspective of the developer who has a problem to solve. Okay, service binding operator supports exposing binding data in these ways. It's not exactly the point. You want to so the point is that you want to expose binding metadata. So these are the steps that you need to follow in order to achieve it and to make sure that service binding will be able to do the binding between the service and the application. So there is a problem that the user is trying to solve.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we are actually for that same person, we are also going to recommend to create a provision service, right? Is that
provision
okay?
service? Yeah, it could be a provision service, but in which case should I use provision service method or direct secret reference? This is what I need to know.
Yeah, I think the most preferred option would be provision service, and direct secret reference. I'm thinking like it is not that. Okay, let me see what I have written so far. I'm kind of thinking to useful when.
Baju, I think we can.
Okay.
We can.
Discuss later. Okay, or is it
Yeah.
too much? Okay. Yeah, anyway, just let me make one point. I'm thinking to include this direct reference as like a useful when there is no provision service available and allows user to connect a service using it. Yeah, so that means only in the absence of a provision service, people could use this as a kind of last resort. This direct secret reference is not may not be a regular solution for, that's what I'm thinking. Because it's all fixed values. I don't think anyone, it's more like a hard coding. So it's not a very practical way. But there are a scenario that I'm thinking
And
that
that's perfectly fine to call it out into the documentation to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
hey, this solution is available to you and is useful in this context, but
Yeah.
in this other context, you should prefer to use another alternative and blah, 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 and explain the value and think about it from a practical point of view. It's the reader of the documentation will not care about the capabilities that we are providing. He will care about the problem that it helps him or her to solve. And we need to help them to solve their problem as easily and fast as possible.
Yeah. And there is another use case that I'm thinking it might be useful where direct secret reference would be useful, but that's again only in the case of a spec based API. The reason is that currently in our API, I hope you might be noticed some message from in our Slack channel, a person who is testing IBM that Zeep platform. He or she want to refer a service running in a different namespace. That use case is not supported in the spec API. There are some reasons for that. But in our API that is supported. We can cross-reference the namespace. So what I'm thinking is that we could ask them to use direct secret reference along with some other operator to sync the secret from another namespace into the current namespace. So that way they can use the direct secret reference. So that kind of recommendation also we can make, right?
Let's take this offline, Baju. I think this is something that we need to continue to discuss and investigate. So
sorry, I was mute, but you are right, Baju. It's important.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks for the feedback so far. I'll continue looking and add more comments here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel
Sounds
free
good.
to ping. Feel free to ping me and Sri as well, and we will try to help you and guide you onto. It's never easy to write documentation. It's a different mindset that you need to have. So with Sri and the rest of the team, we will happily help you to see that from a different angle and to ensure that it is so I used to say to Predrag, I need to understand it, because if I am not able to understand it, then
No one can.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I think one other problem is that it is not like writing a blog post where
Oh,
one person will be having complete freedom what he's thinking, whatever coming. Writing a
Exactly.
collaborative documentation. Yeah.
it's never easy. It's never
Never
easy.
easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
Okay.
worries.
Sounds good.
Keep pushing.
Okay.
Can you hear
Thank-
me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sri.
Okay. Baiju, I've given you the sample link of this Quick Start manual. You can just
Yeah. Sure.
go over
Okay.
it. You will find some examples like how to handle with the purpose or audience or scope or prereqs or some examples and recommendations. You can just go through it and try to have that format for SPU, including the
Yeah.
person and task. That should help
Okay.
you.
Yeah. I'll share that. Keep that
Yeah.
link.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Perfect. Thank you all. Talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
1 second. There is okay left.
No, there is a PNT all ends for
Okay. I think Jasper
us.
left.
Yeah, we need to join that call. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.